Guy 7th here, and this is my 10,000 sub Ask Me Anything video. Now, the reason that you're looking at a picture of me sitting in front of my washer and dryer instead of seeing me live on video is because I imagine this is going to be incredibly long, and I'm trying to keep the file size down so it doesn't take forever to render and upload. So you're just going to have to look at a still shot of my handsome face instead of looking at my slightly fatter now and animated handsome face. So on with the questions. First one I've got, and I'm doing these in the order that they list down the list. So if you asked yours before anyone else, that's because you're at the bottom and I'm starting from the top and working my way down. First question is from the infamous RXL209, and he asks, what do you think of some of these people who own PS4s and say PS4 has no games or PS4 is dry? Well, I would say that some of those people aren't actually PS4 owners. For the other ones that actually believe that, I would say a lot of them are dude bros that don't care anything about non-first person shooter games. And I'm not just talking about indie, I'm talking about retail too. Yeah, I'm a gamer that plays pretty much every platform except for sports. You know, I haven't gotten into basketball games honestly since Lakers versus Celtics on the Genesis way back in the day. And I think the last football game I played was 2K5 on the PS2. After that, there didn't seem like much point. You know what I'm saying? But and I play some of the pro wrestling stuff. But other than that, I don't play sports. But I play pretty much everything else. I play puzzle games, RPG, both Western and Japanese, first-person shooters, third-person shooters, action titles, platformers, you name it. But there's a lot of people out there that do not. And considering the fact that we know statistically that a large number of PS4 owners out of that 10 million that we've got so far came over from the Xbox 360, and what they tend to play when they say PS4's got no games, they tend to really mean PS4's got no first-person shooters we want to play. So I think that's a good chunk of it, because you can look on my shelf. I've got a ton of games for the PS4 on my shelf right now. You guys know, and I know, that there is a good mix of exclusives and third-party stuff available for the PS4. And they've got shooters, they've got third-person action titles, they've got open world, they've got sandbox, they've got sports, they've got pretty much every genre that you would possibly want. So, yeah, the PS4's got no games thing is utter bullshit. It just is. Now, if you're talking about strict retail exclusives, yeah, there aren't that many, but there aren't that many the first year on any system as far as pure first-party developed retail exclusives. It just doesn't happen that much on the first year for the last several gens. It's like the PS2 has been the only real exception to that, and even so, most of that stuff was third-party exclusives because the Sony, as a worldwide development studio, didn't really start buying up studios until the PS3 era. They even when you look at the PS1, aside from stuff like Gran Turismo and Beyond the Beyond and stuff like that, there wasn't a massive amount of first-party developed stuff. There was second-party published stuff, but most of the exclusives on the PS1 and the PS2 were third-party. But anyway, I'm really digressing at this point. Point is, the longer this runs out, the more exclusives you're going to see. It's going to be the same as the PS3, only I imagine it'll probably move a bit faster than the PS3. PS3 didn't really start hitting that exclusive massive flood until early 2009 from Killzone 2 on up. So if what you're talking about is pure exclusives, wait, they're coming. Starting in 2015, you're going to be seeing a lot of stuff, and of course, that's going to bring Uncharted 4, and that's the one that a lot of people are waiting on. So, anyway, next question. Alright, the next question comes from B-Man Beast, and he says, could you explain the difference between indie games and low-budget games to people like the crap gamer? Well, there's not really a whole lot to it. It's a pretty simple concept. Indie games are made by studios that aren't owned by a larger studio. They're independent, they're self-funded, or they're Kickstarter funded or what have you, but they're not tied to a major publisher. Meanwhile, low-budget games are usually tied to a major publisher, and they just don't have as large of a budget, so they end up being a downloadable title as opposed to a retail title. That's the big difference. So an example would be an indie title is No Man's Sky, which isn't out yet, of course, but they aren't tied to a major studio, so that's an indie title, versus, say, Bionic Commando Rearmed on the last generation. That's made by Capcom, but it's a low-budget title. Very simple, very easy to understand. One is indie, one is low budget, but released by a major publisher. Indie games can have larger budgets. They can have very large budgets, depending on what kind of funding they have. I mean, I don't know what the original budget for, say, Minecraft was, which, of course, Minecraft may potentially not be indie for much longer, but, Mojang, I don't know how much money was spent on that. I can't imagine it was a large budget, but considering how large the company has gotten as far as, like, the amount of money and all the retail and everything like that, I would say that there's a pretty large budget in maintaining it and keeping that retail stream going. So that's not exactly a small operation, getting all that retail stuff out there and managing all of that. So there's a lot of money flowing out in regards to Mojang as far as operating all that stuff. Trust me, it's not some little penny and nickel and dime thing is being run out of Notch's garage, for fuck's sake. Anyway, next question. The next one's not really a question, it's a statement from Fury Doughboy, and he says, "Lol, wow, you never proved me wrong. The 360 has a better lineup of JRPGs." Okay, I already knocked you on your ass on this one once, Fury, but I guess you want me to do it again. As far as exclusive RPGs go, most of the exclusive RPGs that the 360 has are Western RPGs, not JRPGs. You got stuff like Witcher 2 and Divinity 2, stuff that, of course, was on PC, but didn't come to the PS3. When you're talking about JRPGs, they had Magna Carta 2, Lost Odyssey, The Last Remnant, Infinite Undiscovery, Tales of Vesperia, which wasn't exclusive in Japan, and that's about it. That's about it as far as big exclusive JRPGs. Oh, and you had Blue Dragon. You had Blue Dragon, which was a good one. That was a good one. As for PS3, son, give me a break. The list goes on and on. You got Folklore, Valkyria Chronicles, you got 3D Dot Game Heroes, you got Demon Souls, you got Ni no Kuni, you got the R. Tonellico series, which has probably 6 or 7 titles on PS3 by now. You got the Atelier series, which also has several titles. You got the Disgaea series, which has at least 2 or 3 that I know of. You got Cross Edge, which has become a rare. If you guys have it out there, you've got something that's actually worth a little money. You've got Dragon's Crown, which was a JRPG beat-em-up hybrid. You've got Final Fantasy X and X2 Remaster, which did not come out for the Xbox 360. You've got Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, which the last time I checked hadn't come out for Xbox 360. You have the Hyper Dimension Neptunia series. You got the Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 remix, which did not come out for Xbox 360. You got Last Rebellion, which admittedly is shit. You got Persona 5 that's about to come out. True, it's going to be on PS4, but guess what? Not on 360 or Xbox One. You got the Tales of Symphonia Chronicles. True, versions of them have been on other systems, but the Chronicles that has all of it on in one box, yeah, not coming out for anything but PS3. Tales of Exilia 1 and 2, PS3 only. Tales of Zestiria, PS3 only. Mugen Souls 1 and 2, can't get that anywhere else. White Knight Chronicles 1 and 2, Witch and the Hundred Knight, Trinity Universe, Time and Eternity, which is not as bad as everyone says it is if you can get over the fact that you're playing as a chick. Akiba's Trip. You got Fairy Dancer F, or Fairy Fencer F. Sorry about that. You've got a new one coming out called Arno Surge, or Arno Surge. I don't know a whole lot about that one. It's a fairly new one that's coming out later, I think this month or next month. You got Natural Doctrine, which is also going to be on the PS4, but guess what? Not on the not on the Xbox One, and not on the 360. You got Ragnarok Odyssey Ace, which was also released on the Vita, but not on 360. You got Drakengard 3. You got Record of Agarist War. There were some of those that did make it to the Xbox 360, but not all of them. And did Fate Paradox. I mean, the list goes on, and they're still releasing new JRPGs on the PS3 to this date, which really, besides the multiplats, ain't happening on the 360. I'm sorry, it's just not. That's just a section of the list. That's not even including the exclusive JRPGs that you could get on PSN for download that were not released on 360. And I'm not even going to go into those. Point being, son, I told you there would be more on PS3 than 360. And I was right. You don't got to be mad about it. You don't got to be ass hurt about it. I told you it would happen, and it happened. That's the way it goes. Sit the fuck down and have a Coke, okay? Next question. The next question comes from this no gay, this Wesley. He's been begging me to say his name in a video, and now it's happened, son. Your dream has come true. His question was, did I buy Shovel Knight? No, I didn't buy Shovel Knight. Why? Because as I told you in the comments, I'm going to get it when it comes out on PS4. I don't want it on Wii U. It'll eventually come to PS4. The developers have already stated that they're making it for PS4. When it comes out for PS4, it'll have trophies on it, and there'll be more people that I know playing it than there are on Wii U, because I have next to no friends on Wii U, because a lot of people just simply didn't buy that shit. We've had this conversation before. Point being, no, I did not buy it on Wii U. I'll get it when it comes out for PS4. Thanks so much for playing. And just because I'm a nice guy, I'm going to say your name again. This no gay, this Wesley. Next. Next question comes from Moderate Slur, who asks, why do you think Xbox YouTube fanboys are so terrified to debate you? Well, isn't that obvious? I'm the 7th level. Next. The next question comes from Ethan Rhodes, who asks, what do you think about PCs and PC gaming? Would you try it out? Well, it's a bit of a misnomer, Ethan, because those who have been following me for a while know that I have been and remain a PC gamer. I just don't have a PC gaming rig right now. I do not heavily play games on PC, and I haven't for a while. I was big into PC gaming and was doing consoles at the same time for years and years. When I got into PC gaming, they didn't even call it PC gaming. They called it IBM compatible. And I had a lot of the old games for it, starting back with, Montezuma's Revenge and King's Quest and all those really shitty Virgin Mastertronic games that you could buy for $10 at the Walden's bookstore, all the way up to TIE Fighter and all that kind of thing, X-Wing, Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, Day of the Tentacle, a lot of those older RPGs like Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate and what have you, and of course Diablo 1 and 2. And then, starting with Doom, I got sidetracked and got really into the deathmatch, because back then you didn't even have online multiplayer deathmatch. You would actually call your friend's computer over the phone with your modem, connect to them through the Doom software, and you'd have person-to-person deathmatch, or you could actually box up your computer, take it somewhere where a bunch of your friends were, network them all together, and play a multiplayer deathmatch that way. And then once things got online, then we started playing a lot more, and I played deathmatch both in LAN parties and online for years and years and years, And then finally, 10 years after Doom came out, I'm sitting there one night and what was it, Unreal Tournament 2004. And I'd already been playing it for several hours, and I stopped and I said to myself, you know what? I've been playing the same fucking game for 10 years. And I turned it off, and I haven't been back. I've dabbled in PC since then. I go over to my friend's house, try out World of Warcraft or whatever, which MMOs do not appeal to me at all. I don't like MMOs. I like the original Warcraft series, the strategy RPG series. I like those. I can't stand World of Warcraft. I don't like MMOs at all, because the bottom line is that I'm not an overly social gamer. It has to be a very specific game and very specific people that I'll play with. I don't really care to play with strangers. I prefer to play with people that I know. So I play with a lot of guys on the PlayStation Network. I've played with Infinite Retro, and I've played with The Truth Setting You Free and a bunch of other people. But it's usually co-op stuff. Like I've played a lot of co-op and versus stuff in Burnout Paradise. I played a lot of co-op in Borderlands and Borderlands 2, that kind of thing. Would I ever get back into PC gaming? Well, the truth of it is that my son 8th asked for a gaming PC for Christmas, so I'm going to be building him a gaming PC. He doesn't really want it for big next-gen stuff, or shall we say current-gen stuff. He's wanting it because he wants to be able to do Let's Play videos like Tobuscus or PewDiePie and all those kind of guys. And so he basically wants a computer just to run Steam so he can play all the indie horror games and Happy Wheels and all that stupid shit. So I'm not even going to be putting anything super powered in his system. I'll probably put something like a GTX 760 or something like that in there. It'll still be more powerful than the consoles are now, but it's not. I'm not expecting to be running. Want him to play games at pure on 120 frames per second at 4K resolution or any of that shit. As far as building one for myself, I'm eventually going to build one, because there are things that I want to do with my videos that my laptop just can't handle, and I'm wanting to eventually upgrade all my equipment so I can do more effects, better quality stuff. I want to get a better quality camera and whatnot. So I'll be getting a gaming PC, and I'll probably get a Steam account at some point, but it'll only be for exclusive stuff that I can't get on the consoles, simply because of the fact that I know the third parties would be superior on PC. I know this, and I know they'd be cheaper, but I work on PCs for a living. That's what I do. I do it on the midnight shift all night long. When I come home, I want to sit back in my recliner, pop a disc in, and play. I don't want to be sitting at a desk. I don't want to have a computer rig cluttering up my entertainment center, having to sit next to it, or even networking it out wirelessly. I don't want to fool with any of that shit. And I'm not going to sit at a desk and play a game when I can be propped up in my recliner and just playing with a controller. I just don't want to do that. And it's not worth it to get a Steam box, because unless you spend over $1,000 on one, you're not going to get one that's that much impressive over the consoles. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. I'm not going to build no $12,000 PC. I probably won't go over $3,000 or $4,000. I'll probably put maybe whatever the equivalent to a couple of GTX 780s and SLI or something like that. I don't really know. I haven't done enough research on it to really figure out what my budget on it's going to be. It's just going to be a PC that'll go up in my bedroom, so that me and the missus can play whatever PC games that we want to play, and that's going to be that. But again, it's mostly going to be for the stuff that I can't get on the consoles. The RPGs that I can't get on the consoles, the strategy titles that I can't get on the consoles, that kind of thing. So there's your answer. Next question comes from Forte Buster. What was your first console? Well, I'm an old guy. I'm 39 years old, and I've been gaming for a long time. And my first gaming console was actually a hand-me-down Radio Shack Pong console, believe it or not. I was maybe 4 years old, but I distinctly remember it. It was a beige color, and it had removable little controllers that were just like well, they were shaped kind of like a Wiimote, and then you just had a little stick that you could move up and down, and that was what controlled your paddle, and that was pretty much it. And it had 3 or 4 different versions of Pong on it. And then after that, my next console was another hand-me-down console, and that was a Fairchild Channel F. That was my first console that you could swap cartridges out. See, I was a police officer's son, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but even way back then, policemen don't make a whole lot of money. And so my cousins, they always got the new hotness as far as the consoles went, and then when they'd upgrade to a new console, they'd give me the old one and all their games for it. And so my first several consoles were hand-me-downs. And then eventually it came to the point where, I got an Atari 2600 for Christmas. That was the first one that wasn't a hand-me-down. And then the first console I bought with my own money was an NES, and I bought it by making extra money over the summer cutting grass. I cut neighbors' grass all summer long until I could finally purchase the NES action set that came with the Zapper, 2 controllers, and Mario and Duck Hunt. And I've been doing this a long time, and it's not just gaming. I've been talking about gaming for a long time. I actually started reviewing games before the World Wide Web was even a thing. I got started in the BBS community, which for you younger folks out there stands for Bulletin Board Service or Bulletin Board System. It was kind of like a website, but it existed solely on your computer, and people would dial into your computer via their modem, and they would have access to whatever you had set up on your system. And you could send and receive email with it across any other bulletin boards that were networked into the same mail systems. And you had online games that you could play, which were called door games back then. And you could download shareware. So, the first place that most people got the Doom demo or the Doom shareware, which was like the first 5 levels, was downloading it off of BBSs. I'm telling you the truth. And I ran my own BBS for a while, and I would write game reviews for the FidoNet 362 mail forums. And when the World Wide Web picked up, I closed my BBS down, and I messed around on the internet for a while, ran a couple of small sites that didn't really go anywhere, and then I got a writing job for a website called Whatever Dude, and I wrote for Whatever Dude for a while. I didn't really do a whole lot gaming wise when I was at Whatever Dude. I was more doing like movies and TV and old retro stuff about old TV shows from the 80s and stuff like that. And then I started my own website back up again when Whatever Dude went out of business. And with that website, which was the7thlevel.com, I let the URL on that lapse back in early 2008, so it's now owned by some Mormon company. So you go to the7thlevel.com now, and you're going to see the history of Joseph Smith and shit. But that used to be my URL, and I wrote video game reviews there, and I had other people that wrote video game reviews there. And let me show you a picture of what my website looked like. Here's my website looked like when it first went up, and it had a very kind of heavy metal, sci-fi, grim and dingy look to it, and I really liked that look. I thought it was really cool. And take notice of the name of the person that wrote that review that's currently listed there, because I'm gonna show you something that might surprise a few of you here in a second. But overall, I eventually got bored of this design and decided I was going to go with something a little bit different. And here is a picture of what my website looked like after I adopted more of a 8-bit retro look, because I was really wanting to. I was starting to feel a kind of nostalgia for the 8-bit period at that point. And so I had my whole site redesigned to give it an 8-bit look. So here's what it looked like at that point. And here's what the second version of my website looked like. You can see the 8-bit influence all over it. There's a lot of pieces of Mega Man that was put into it. It was designed by a guy named Mike Fireball, who used to run a website called Pop Rocks and Coke, and he's also written for ProgressiveBoink.com, which I'm not sure if it's still around nowadays or not. It might still be, but he designed all of this, and it looks really great. There used to be a little random character over there in the corner to show a random 8-bit character every time you refresh the page, and I just really liked that look, and I wish I still had that logo because I'd love to do something with it nowadays. Maybe use it for my YouTube channel banner or something cool like that. I don't know. I'll figure it out. And here's another interesting thing about my website, which I know I'm getting off topic, but I'm just in a talkative mood right now. I got off work just a few minutes ago, so I feel like gabbing. This ought to show you, what a small world we live in. Those of you who are familiar with website reviewers and video game journalists, e-celebrities and whatnot, you might find it interesting who you would have found on the staff page of the 7thlevel.com. Are you ready for this? Take a look at this page from the 7thlevel.com's staff page. Remember when I told you to take a look at the name on the top of that review to see who had wrote it? Yeah. Just take that image in for a moment. I'm going to sit and be quiet for a bit. Just drink it all in, you non-believers who have doubted me all these years about what I said about my website. Just drink it all in. And let the ramifications of this soak in, and soak in well. Okay, that's enough. That's right, folks. Jim Sterling, formerly known as Morphine Jim, former writer for Destructoid and current writer and video maker for Escapist Magazine and on YouTube, used to write for me. I hired him in to write video game reviews for the 7thlevel.com. I was one of the first 3 or 4 video game writing gigs that he ever had. And I've talked about this before. I've mentioned that he used to write for me, and I've mentioned that, I'm still friends with him to this day. We talk on Facebook, we talk on PSN. He's on my PSN friends list as we speak. But I sometimes get some funny looks when I mention that. I've had people question me about it online, so I thought I'd finally show you guys that no, I'm not bullshitting. One of the most notorious game reviewers on the internet to this day, one of his earliest video game jobs was writing for yours truly. So when people question my validity, when people question whether I have the experience and the background to be talking about consoles, writing reviews about video games, I've been around longer than most, I've done it longer than most, and I've been associated with some of the best. So that's about as legit as it gets, son. Next question. Next question is from the bemused one. Who are the top 3 people that you think take YouTube too seriously? Well, the number 1 would probably be Pyro2000X, because that guy, oh Lord, he's the one that used to talk about how he bleeds Sony. Yeah, so he takes things a little bit too to heart. Sometimes I feel like Dr. Trey takes it a little bit too seriously. For the most part, he's trolling, but I've seen him get into some really heated arguments with Black Bond, where it would go on and on and on, and he would just simply refuse to admit that he was wrong when he was wrong. And I'm not saying he's wrong all the time, but there's been a number of times where he's been in the wrong about various subjects, and sometimes he'll just shrug it off, and sometimes he will just absolutely refuse to admit he's wrong and just keep on going and going and going. As far as a third person Geez, there's so many on the internet and on YouTube that just take things so much to heart. It's kind of hard to to single another one out. Let me think for a second. If Tokes was still around and he was still doing what he used to do, I would say Tokes takes it too seriously. But he's moved on to better things, so I can't really include him in that list. I would have to say probably, and he's gone again, so I don't even know if he's going to hear this. I don't want him to take offense to it if he does. But the truth setting you free, he takes YouTube a little bit too seriously. He gets upset about things, and uh, he takes things that are said about him to heart to some extent. And there are things that go on where he'll try. I think he was upset really and kind of disheartened by the fact that he left gaming, and then when he came back to gaming, because he spent a while in politics, using his site for politics, when he came back, the YouTube gaming audience, especially the PlayStation guys, just didn't re-embrace him the way that he was before. He was a fairly prominent contributor to the YouTube gaming community during the last generation console wars, and after he left to go do politics stuff and came back, people just didn't really resub him the way he was expecting to, and it's a damn shame, really, because he put on a really good gaming news show. He put on a gaming news show that I wish some of these news for views whores, I wish this was the way they did their news, because it was funny and it was insightful, and his news stuff wasn't really biased. He just picked out the stories he wanted to talk about, and he'd talk about them. And he kept it concise. They weren't long and drawn out. It was actually him on camera. It wasn't him talking over game footage, and he made it funny, and he used a lot of effects. It looked really professional. It looked like something you might see on VH1. It was a really, really well-made show, but the audience just wasn't there, and it makes me, no trolling, it makes me feel bad for him, because he put a lot of work into it. He's the guy that designed my intro as far as the graphics go. Me and J.A. Allen did the music, most of the work done by J.A. Allen, but that just shows you the kind of talent that he has when you watch my intro. All those moving graphics and everything, he did that. And this last time that he left, it had to do with his Thunderdome thing. He gave his Thunderdome away to someone else, and then he decided that he didn't like the way it was being run, and he tried to take it back, and there was this big, huge stink over it, and now he's gone again. And it's a damn shame. I mean, I really wish you guys had subbed to him the way he was subbed before, because if he's got people watching him and he's motivated, he can do some really fantastic stuff, and it's just a damn shame. And I'm really getting off topic. So next, okay, John Hayes asks, as one retro fan to another, what console do you prefer to have the best titles from back then? PS2, GameCube, Xbox Original, etc. Wording on your question's a little off there, but I'll do my best to interpret. I don't really think of those consoles as retro consoles, even though they obviously are. They're 2 generations behind us now. I think of retro consoles going farther back than that. So if I was gonna pick one retro console, if I could only have one retro console, it would probably be a tie between the NES or the Genesis. Because goddamn, I loved my Genesis. I mean, I loved the NES, but when I got my Genesis, I became a full-on Sega fanboy. I had the Genesis, I had the CD, I had the 32X, then I upgraded to the Saturn. When everyone else was playing all those great games on PS1, I was playing my Saturn, which my Saturn had some great games on it too, but I was so loyal to Sega at that point that I just refused to get a PS1 until the Saturn was discontinued. And then I put it and all my exclusives in a box, which most of them I don't own anymore because of the garage sale debacle of 2004. And then when the Dreamcast came out, I was like, finally, I can go back to my beloved Sega. And I bought my Dreamcast, and I was loving my Dreamcast. And I was buying up all the exclusives, which again, a bunch of those were sold in the garage sale debacle of 2004. And then the Dreamcast went out of business, and I begrudgingly switched over to PS2. And that's when I switched over to PS2. That's when I started becoming a real Sony enthusiast. I mean, I liked my PS1, but it wasn't until PS2 that I really started to embrace it, because up until then I enjoyed my PS1, but I was missing new games coming on the Saturn. And I when the Dreamcast died and they announced that they were getting out of the console business, I knew that there was never going to be another hope that I'd be playing on a Sega console ever again. And so that's when I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, okay, I'm going to see what Sony can do for me. And then, of course, I've been with Sony ever since. But point being, it would be either the NES or the Genesis. I love my Genesis. I have more games on my Genesis than I do anything else in my collection. It was just a great system, and I love it to death. And I love my NES too. Maybe less than the Genesis. I mean, it's really, really close. Really close. Practically too close to call. So, there's your answer. Next. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right. The next question comes from Renaid Klein, or Renaid Klein, not sure. But they say, congrats on 10K. As for my question, do you think there is a chance we could get a new Valkyria Chronicles or White Knight Chronicles for PS4 or Vita? I love both series, felt they were both underrated, especially White Knight Chronicles 2 and Valkyria Chronicles 2, and I was pissed when Valkyria Chronicles 3 remained a Japanese PSP exclusive. With Final Fantasy Type O being ported from PSP to PS4, it gives me hope. Any thoughts? Well, Valkyria Chronicles, at least on the PS3, was released in the States by Sega, and it did well. It didn't, blow the roof off of the place, but at the time, it was one of only a small handful of JRPGs on the PS3, and it got a lot of positive press, so it did fairly okay for a smaller import title of that type. But as for the possibility of them making it to PS4, is kind of slim, especially with White Knight Chronicles 1 and 2. Those games just didn't do well. They just didn't sell well at all. PlayStation, Sony, they dropped the ball on marketing. There was zero marketing for that game, and it's a shame because, yeah, the storyline is not as good, but gameplay-wise, those games play a lot like Xenoblade Saga on the Wii. And the graphics are really well done for the time that the game came out. And if you guys out there have a PS3 and you like JRPGs, if you buy White Knight Chronicles 2, it comes with White Knight Chronicles 1 on the disc. So you get two games for one. You can probably get it for about $17. You're talking about well over 100 hours of gameplay. True, the online I don't think is up anymore, but you can still play the single-player campaign no problem, and it's a great little game. White Knight Chronicles was made by the same developers who put out the Dark Cloud series, and so it's quality. It just didn't have the advertising that it needed to have to be successful on that platform. It came out in February when there was a whole bunch of other exclusives coming out, and it just kind of got lost in the shuffle. I don't think you're going to see a White Knight Chronicles 3. I think they'll move on to some other series and just move forward from there. I've read that they are working on a new game for PS4, but I wouldn't count on it being White Knight Chronicles 3. Next. Next question is from Mac Reddy. Why do you wear sunglasses inside? Well, this isn't my first third shift gig. I used to do server monitoring on third shift years and years ago, and sitting in a dark room because they would shut the lights off at night, so you couldn't even go over and turn them back on. They were on a timer. And sitting in a dark room watching servers on monitors all night long, it can affect your eyes. And after I'd done it for a while, I started to notice that I was becoming sensitive to bright light, to the point now where I can't really sit in a well-lit room for extremely long periods of time without it starting to cause me a headache. So I'm either having to pop headache pills or migraine pills to keep myself from getting a migraine, or I can simply put on a pair of shades and I'm fine. and I don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money on regularly buying special medication for migraines and whatnot. So I wear my sunglasses indoors a lot. It's just a common thing for me, and I've been doing it for so long that I'm just kind of used to it at this point. Uh, I've even got pictures of me from 10 years ago where I was wearing sunglasses indoors, even at when I was finishing up my college. When I was finishing up at college, I mean, here is a picture of me from 2005 sitting in my CCNA class at college, and what am I wearing? Sunglasses. Not much has changed, has it? I'm actually about 125 to 150 pounds lighter in this picture. Uh, I'm not sure exactly, but it's somewhere around 125 to 150. I'm still wearing gargoyles, but I'm wearing copper-rimmed gargoyles instead of black rims like what I've got now. And this was taken in 2005, 9 years ago, in my CCNA class. And the only thing that's different is I've got a lot more gray and a lot more fat. Going even farther back, this is 1999. So this picture is like 14 years old, 14 or 15, whatever it is. And as you can see, really, I simply do not age. You know, I don't have crow's feet or any of that kind of garbage. I look like the same dude that I did in 1998. It doesn't change. I don't change. I gain weight, I lose weight. The only thing that shows how old I am is the gray in my hair, and the rest of it, well, you're looking at it here. Have another picture. Here's a picture from me from 2000. That's a 14-year-old picture. That's me sitting in my 2000 Camaro driving down the street in Jacksonville, Florida. That's, you know, going on a 15-year-old picture of me. I'm about 100 pounds lighter in that picture, but that's, you know, how different does that look besides the fact that the hair in my beard is darker? And as you can see from the picture of me that I've been using in this video, my hair and my beard didn't start going gray until just a couple of years ago. That picture was taken in 2009, you know, 5 years ago when I first started my YouTube channel. So what's the lesson that we can learn from this? I wear sunglasses indoors so that I don't get migraines, and seventh is eternal. Next question. Next question is from Diana Soto, who asks, what's the most decent game you've played in the last couple of years? Really? Really? You couldn't have narrowed it down for me just a little bit, like maybe a genre? I mean, I've played a lot of decent games. You know, Uncharted 2 was, you know, a lot more than a decent game. Uncharted 3 was more like a decent game, but Uncharted 2 was way more than a decent game. God of War 3 was way more than a decent game. How about I list some stuff that was actually decent for the Xbox 360? Would you like that? Fable 2, decent game. Fable 3, not so decent. Not so decent. Alan Wake, decent game. Magna Carta 2, decent game. Left 4 Dead, decent game. I don't really care for co-op with a zombie shooter so much, but it's a fun game. It's a fun game. Going back to PS3, what's some other decent stuff? Pretty much all of their exclusives, except for a handful. Most of their exclusives were golden. I mean, you have Infamous 1 and 2. Those definitely decent games. Ratchet and Clank, Tools of Destruction. Ratchet and Clank, A Crack in Time. Both of those are amazing platformers and should have sold way better than they did, and also were the examples of the last good Ratchet and Clank games, because goddamn Insomniac has dropped the ball. Ted Price, you piece of shit, you're fucking everything up. That Ratchet and Clank that's coming out in 2015 better be fucking golden and at 60 frames per second, motherfucker. Alright, that's it. I'm starting to get mad. Next. Next question comes from Jacob English. Seventh, what's your PSN name? The Seventh Level. THE, the number 7, THLEVEL. All one word. Send me an invite. Next. Next question from Firebreather719. Do you own a PS Vita 7th? Oh, come on. Come on. I've posted a video showing me holding one. Come on, bro. You're just telling me right there that you haven't watched any of my older shit. You need to go back and watch my older shit before asking me shit like that. Come on, son. You can go and add me on your PSN. Go look at my trophies. I got Vita trophies on there. I've got Vita Plats on there. Come on, son. Put some effort into it. But yes, I own a Vita. Next. Next question comes from Syed Staffa. What's your favorite game of 2014 so far? Honestly, it'd have to be a tie between Infamous Second Son and Diablo 3. I'm loving the shit out of Diablo 3, and I really enjoyed Infamous Second Son. I beat the game. I still need to go and finish up my hard mode campaign so I can finish out and get the plat on it. But I've gotten stuck on Diablo 3. Not stuck, but addicted to it. I've been playing it a lot. I really like it, and I like the way the online works. Looking for people. If you're looking for somebody to play and I happen to be online at the time, feel free to invite me in. I'll play with you. It's a fun game. But so far for 2014, those have been my two favorites out of everything that I've played. And I've played a lot. Next. Although Wolfenstein has to be thrown in there too now that I think about it. That's been my favorite shooter of 2014 so far. You people whine and bitch about it because it doesn't have multiplayer on it. I give a fuck off for your multiplayer. You can play that online Cowboys and Indians online paintball bullshit all you want. Wolfenstein had a fun campaign and it had a great story, and if you don't like it, kiss my ass. Now, next. Why don't you challenge Wii U fanboys to a debate? This is a question from ElfGamer100. Why don't you challenge Wii U fanboys to debate? Because I already buried their leader, the Black Baron. Next. This one's from Bojan456. What do you think of Kingdom Hearts? If you've never played them, try them out on the PS3 remix. Yes, I've played Kingdom Hearts. I played Kingdom Hearts on the PSP. I played Kingdom Hearts on the PS2. Beat the first two. I've got the first remaster on PS3. I've got like 79-80% of the trophies. I've done everything but like beat it on hard mode and gotten a couple of the little ones. And I'm going to be getting the 2.5 remix when it comes out. And I'm impatiently awaiting Kingdom Hearts 3. Next. From Sojiro Nagi. Do I plan on getting Destiny, and for what platform and what edition? Have any of you guys seen me online playing Destiny? No. It's online only. If it's online only, I don't give a fuck. I did not buy it, and I'm not in any hurry to buy it unless they patch it to where I can play it offline, which from what I'm told would be defeating the point of playing it in the first place. So no, I don't give a shit about it. I don't care about online only first person shooters. I didn't care about MAG, and I don't care about Destiny. And let's see, what else did he ask? Have you upgraded your HDD on the PS4, and are you planning to? No, I have not, and maybe down the road. What did you think of the Sony pre-TGS conference? I think it showed a hell of a lot of JRPGs, and for me, because I'm a huge fan of JRPGs, that's a good thing. All these guys that are been talking about how that conference was terrible, that just goes to show you that they're fucking dude bros, they're fucking casuals that don't give a shit about JRPGs and then go fuck themselves. Finally, what are the top 5 most anticipated PS4 games, or Xbox, or Wii U? I really want to play the new Zelda when it eventually comes out. I really want to play Uncharted 4. I really want to play the next God of War. There's a rumor floating around that they're going to bring back Legend of Dragoon for the PS4. If that's the case, I really want to play it. As for Xbox One, I'm interested in Project Spark to see if that's any good, because I do like the creation stuff, though not as much as my son 8th. And I would try to list some other exclusive that I'm excited for, but there's not really anything coming out for it that I'm excited for, because I'm not a big fan of Halo or Gears of War. And Fable Legends looks like shit to me. It doesn't look like the original Fable series. It looks like almost like some kind of like a Diablo wannabe clone, but with multiplayer where you can play as the bad guy, which to me that feels like kind of a rip-off of something you'd see on the Wii U. And so I'm not really excited for Fable Legends because it seems like such a departure from the original series. So I'm sure eventually there will be some exclusives on Xbox One that I'm excited to play. I mean, there were games on the 360 that I enjoyed, but they haven't shown me anything that I care about yet. Once again, because I don't give a rat fuck about Halo, I don't give a rat fuck about Gears of War. So, there you go. I'm interested in Quantum Break, but I'm not excited for it. I'm just interested. Anyway, next. From Open Season on Xbox. Congratulations. What's your favorite Atari 2600 game? Oh, good lord. Well, I had favorites in each genre, really. Uh, Favorite shooter would probably be Phoenix. I really liked Phoenix. I thought that was a fun game. Favorite arcade port would probably be Crystal Castles. Favorite questing title would probably be Adventure, which anyone that wants to know where the inspiration for Legend of Zelda comes from, aside from several Japanese RPGs that were on the MSX and some other stuff, take a look at Adventure on Atari 2600. And well, yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's a lot of different genres. You're talking about a system with hundreds of games on it, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down to one. But honestly, out of all the games that I had over the years for the 2600, the one that I played the most was Phoenix. So I guess I'd have to say Phoenix was my favorite 2600 game. Next, TF330129. Jesus Christ. Pick a real screen name, bro. Yeah, I love all my subs, but come on. Pick a real screen name. Anyway, TF330129 asks, hey, long have you been gaming? Which I kind of already answered a minute ago. And what are your favorite kinds of games? I also explained that a little bit ago. Also, how do you think this gen will play out? Well, I think the PlayStation 4 will be the dominant console. It's been the winning console for the last 3 gens now. I don't think that that's going to change. I think this will be the 4th time where the PlayStation 4 ends up being the console that sold the most. I think it's going to be the one with the most games as far as the best number of exclusives and high rating exclusives. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot different between last gen and this gen, except for the fact that Nintendo will not have the highest selling console. I think it's going to be PlayStation 4. So, there you go. What's your favorite game of all time, and do you think that we'll see The Last Guardian in 2015? That's a question from Artorius of the Abyss. Well, Artorius, let me tell you, when you've played as long as me, what you'll learn is that there's no such thing as one favorite game. You'll have favorite games in categories. Like, you'll have favorite games for this system, favorite games for that system. And on that system, this is your favorite RPG, this is your favorite action title, this is your favorite platformer, this is your favorite racer. And that's the way I look at it. I don't single out one single game that's been like my love of my whole core of existence, and love of that game is what drives my whole desire to keep playing games. It doesn't exist. And that's because of the fact that this is such a wide genre, and there's been thousands upon thousands upon thousands of games released for a plethora of systems, and each one has its gems. And I really encourage people that came in after all these great systems came out to explore that, either through emulation or through Wii U eShop, or however you can get a hold of those games, preferably not through illegal emulation, but do what you got to do. You need to reach back and look at those past games, because yes, some of them are clunky and some of them don't look near as good as what games are like now, and you look at them and you think, why would anyone care about this? But if you just sit down and play them, that magic is still there. And so I highly recommend that if you haven't played an NES, if you haven't played a Sega Master System or a Genesis or even a ColecoVision or some games by Atari, if you have the opportunity to do it, do so. because there are still, to this day, really fun, addictive games on all these systems, and you're really selling yourself short by only sticking to what's the new and what's the now. Next. Oh shit, sorry, he also asked if we would see Last Guardian in 2015. No, I don't think you'll see it in 2015. I'm hoping that you'll see it in 2015, but I'm not thinking that you will. I'm pretty sure it's being moved. It's pretty well confirmed that what development is happening with it, it's been moved to PS4, but even if it does make it out, I have my doubts that it'll live up to the expectations that people have had for it at this point. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I almost feel like it's going to be the next Duke Nukem Forever. That it'll eventually make it out, but it just won't be what everyone was hoping that it would be. I hope that's not the case, but I'm a cynic at heart, and that's kind of how I feel about it right now. Okay, this question's from Mr. Africa. Sup, 7th, I got a question. You remember that video you made a long time ago where you walked around your neighborhood and showed how the city really didn't give a fuck? Did your neighborhood ever get any better, or did you move? No, sir, I did not move. Eventually, the housing market picked back up in this country, and that included here in my hometown. And so a lot of these houses that were being rented, those people moved out when their lease ran up, and those houses were bought, and as actual homeowners moved in, they started taking things more seriously as far as security. And of course, there hasn't been any kind of crime or break-ins or shootings or any of that kind of thing, because the economy has to some extent recovered, and so that has taken away a lot of the desperation that would drive people to do those kind of things. So our kids are playing in the street again, they're riding their bikes again, everything is back to normal now. So there wasn't any need for me to move out. I've got good relationships with all my neighbors, and it's a multi-ethnic community. We've got people of all races and creeds living here, and we all get along. We all go out and shoot off fireworks with each other out in the street every 4th of July. We all take part in cleaning them up when we're done. It's come back to the way that it was when I first moved in. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm happy where I'm at. So there you go. From Dante's 61680. Congrats on 10,000 subs. What are your top 3 JRPGs of last gen? Let's see. Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch, Xenoblade Saga for the Wii, and God, you really put me in a corner on that one. There's so many good ones. I mean, those are my definite top 2. As far as the third one goes, not really any of the ones that were exclusive on Xbox. I mean, Blue Dragon was fun, but I wouldn't consider it the best. If you consider action RPGs, then I would have to go with 3D Dot Game Heroes, because I'm a huge fan of 2D Zelda. I'm not a huge fan of 3D Zelda, and 3D Dot Game Heroes had that 2D Zelda vibe down pat. I mean, right up until the new Zelda that just came out for the 3DS, not this last one that came out, Link Between Worlds. Until that one came out, it had been forever since I'd been able to really scratch that 2D Zelda itch to my satisfaction, and 3D Dot Game Heroes really scratched that itch. I really do love that game, so I'm going to consider it my third in that list. There's my games for that. Thanks. Next question is from Ultra Steel. If you could, would you ever dress up in a Mario costume and go to Nintendo's headquarters in Japan, then one-up Iwata by punching him and telling him that the Wii U is a fail? No, I would not, because I would not want to go to jail. Next. Next question is from Peter ST. Peter Street, Peter Saint, whatever. 2 questions. 1. How is it possible that PS3 owners bought twice as many copies of that garbage Call of Duty Ghost than their own exclusive masterpiece, The Last of Us? 2. Should Sony publish their own exclusives on other platforms like Steam if it didn't sell well on PS4? Second Son sold only 1.5 million copies, and Sucker Punch suffered layoffs as a result. Thanks. Well, first of all, Sucker Punch didn't suffer layoffs because of the sales of Infamous Second Son. Infamous Second Son sales thus far are in line with how well the first two games sold, although the first one sold better than the second one. Prior to that, their series was Sly Cooper, and none of the games, the Sly Cooper games for PS2, even broke a million. They staffed up before they started full production of Infamous Second Son, and then after the Infamous First Light was completed, they let some of those people that they staffed up go before announcing that they were going to take an extended vacation before starting development on their next game. That's what companies do. The staff level that they have now is the same staff level that they had right before Infamous Second Son started. So all they did was they hired up a bunch of people to help, and then they let go of a bunch of people when it was done. Some of those people were people that had been there for several years, but you know what? When you've been at a company for several years, you can get set in your ways, and when you're set in your ways, you're not willing to budge and try out new things, and it could be that after Infamous Second Son, they might be looking to go in a different direction, and those people were not interested in doing something different. Or you could have had some people that were being resistant toward making another Infamous game. These are things that we can't really know, but we do know that they staffed up to a little over 100 from about 65 or 70 people before development started, and now they're back down to 65 or 70 people. And they did that for the previous two Infamouses as well. So this is not anything unusual. Anyone that's drumming it up is just more crap gamer style Xbot spin. So I wouldn't be concerned about it, to be honest with you. Now, as far as the other question, why do you think PS3 owners bought twice as many copies of Call of Duty Ghosts than The Last of Us? Well, for one thing, The Last of Us came in at the tail end of the PS3's main life cycle. PS3 is still going strong, but exclusives that tend to come out close to the launch of a new system don't always tend to go as well sales-wise as exclusives that were in the middle of the gen, for example. And I mean, they recently announced that it was up to 6 million sales now, so it's not exactly like it had done poorly. But the thing about it is that Call of Duty is a game that appeals to a wide crowd. You've got people that are hardcore gamers that play it. You've got people that are dude bros that play it. You've got casual players that play it just to have something to play with their friends online because all of their friends are playing it. It's just one of those games that everyone buys every year. So it's always going to have a big audience. I mean, you might as well ask, why did Grand Theft Auto 5 sell more? Or why did Gran Turismo 5 sell more? Because these are franchises with a long history, and people have an emotional attachment to those franchises. You know, think about PlayStation 3. Most of their exclusives were new IP. Infamous was a new IP. Uncharted was a new IP. The Last of Us is a new IP. Resistance was a new IP. Killzone was one of the few that, and God of War, that were pre-existing franchises. You know, Gran Turismo. Most of the exclusives that came out from Sony first-party developers for the PS3 were new franchises, so they didn't have established audiences. And that's why it didn't sell as well. And even with an established audience, I don't think it's going to sell as well, because even on the PlayStation 2, your exclusives on the PlayStation 2 did not, even with a 150 million install base, did not sell as well as third-party games. It's just the truth. The only one that came close was the Gran Turismo series, which those games sold over 10 million copies apiece. One of them got up to 14. Highest selling game on PS2 is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, sold over 17 million copies. It just is what it is. Maybe one day they'll have some phenomenon game where everyone that buys a PS2 is going to want to play it. They just have to come up with that idea. So these games that are selling 3 and 4 and 5 million copies, as long as they're keeping their budgets under control, that's, the same amount of copies that exclusives on PlayStation platforms have always sold. Now they're starting to get up higher than that, and not just Gran Turismo. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen now in the long term once the install base of the PS4 really expands. Because remember, Uncharted was not a huge seller when it first came out, but it came out in 2007 when they didn't have a massively large install base, and it didn't get into that 4 million range until after the success of Uncharted 2, and then people went back and bought Uncharted 1 after the fact, and that's why it was able to get up to the install size that it has. So if you're going to say Infamous Second Son, it may be at 1.5 million now, but that number is going to go up. Do I think that it's going to get to 5 and 6 million copies? No. Might get to 3, but I don't think it's going to get up to 5 or 6 million unless the PS4 just ends up becoming more of a phenomenon than even I'm expecting it to be. Next question is from Desty Nova. I'm pretty sure you don't want to touch this one, but here it goes anyway. What do you think of the gaming media's recent attack on gamers? So you're wanting to know what I think about Zoe Quinn and that other woman and all that crap who doesn't, what is it, Anita Cardezian or whatever the fuck her name is. Look, I don't really care about all that shit, but when they start stereotyping gamers and saying that all game and it's because they're trying to cover up their own shit, so they're trying to deflect attention off of the fact that they're obviously corrupted, and there's obvious collusion going on between developers and the gaming media, and so they start deflecting that shit off of gamers by calling all gamers racist, calling all gamers sexist, misogynist, all this stuff. That's when I start to have a problem with it, because I don't fit into any of those categories, and I have a lot of friends in this community that don't fit in those categories either. So if you really want to get into how I personally feel on it, because I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that bullshit, just go look up the Not Your Shield movement, and that's pretty much how I feel about Gamergate and all that bullshit. What is your personal rating on Knack? Because I only got a chance to play the demo. That comes from Bladechild. Out of a scale of my 7 scale, I'd give it a 5 out of 7. It's a good game, which in a scale out of 10 would be this equivalent to a 7. It's a good game, had some flaws, needed a better frame rate. 30 frames per second is good, but with those graphics being the way they are, I think they could have gotten it up to 60. And it would have done better to be, I think it would have done better as a game to be a little bit more open world, like a Jak and Daxter type of title, which it wasn't fully open world, but you remember the big levels in Jak and Daxter, you know what I'm talking about. And I think it could have done with a little bit more variety as far as your powers that you got. It was a good base, but I think that they could really expand it and make it into something that was a must-have if they just looked back at the games they've designed in the past and incorporate some of those mechanics into it. Give us real powers, not just stuff that's only good for a use in one specific area and then you have no use for it. Give us the ability to change Knack's powers on the fly, and he keeps them, and he can use them for different attacks and different things that he wants. Just take what you built and expand on it. But anyway, 5 out of 7. Man, these multi-question ones are killing me. The Sweaty Burn Mob... What is it? The Sweaty Burnt Mamba. Okay. The Sweaty Burnt Mamba says, hey, a few questions here. Will Halo MCC and Halo 5 save the Xbox One? If by save Xbox One you mean make it sell more than PlayStation 4, no, I don't think they will. I think those individual games will sell well, but I don't think it's going to push them past the PS4 at this point. Oh god, we got a long one. I don't personally consider Xbox One or PS4 to be next gen, merely just an update from last gen. I consider Oculus, Steam, and PC gaming to be the true version of next gen, especially in terms of cloud tech, processing, graphics, etc., and DLCO content that appears in almost every game. What's your opinion on this matter? Well, that all depends on what your definition of next gen is. Now, obviously, we've had arguments over the years where people have said Wii is not next gen and Wii U is not next gen. Well, it's a misnomer because there's multiple definitions for what next gen is. Uh, was Wii the next generation of Nintendo consoles? Yes. Was the Wii U next generation of Nintendo consoles after the Wii U or after the Wii? Yes. Did either of those conform graphically to the other consoles that it came out for those gens? No. So in regards to the PS3 and the Xbox 360, the Wii was not quote unquote next gen. In comparison to the PS4 and the Xbox One, graphically the Wii U is not next gen. Now, your question leads me to suspect that you are a PC enthusiast, possibly a PC elitist. I'm going to say this again with feeling. PC is a platform, it is not a console. Everyone already knows that PC is where the best graphics are. Everybody already knows that PC is where the best services are. It's a whole other entity entirely. Asking me whether or not I think PS4 and Xbox One are next gen because they don't look as good as PC is really getting into a PC elitist argument. And this is what, let me tell you for once and for all, what I think about the PC elitists. When a guy is complaining, and when two guys are arguing over which is better, PS4 and Xbox One, and somebody says, PC Master Race. Well, for one thing, PC is not a console. And even if Steambox, even when you consider Steambox isn't really a console, it's a stripped down PC made to look like a console that runs Steam as its OS. So I don't even consider those real consoles, they're just streamlined PCs. And what I think about that is this. That's like two guys sitting in a parking lot and they're arguing over which car is the best American sports car, Mustang or Camaro. And they're arguing back and forth because one owns a Mustang and one owns a Camaro. And then some Italian guy pulls up in a Lamborghini and says, "Oh, the fuck are you? It's a Lamborghini." Lamborghini doesn't belong in the argument because they're arguing about which is the best U.S. sports car. PC doesn't belong in console argument either. PC elitists shouldn't care. They already have the best platform. So they should all watch their little Let's Play videos and watch their PewDiePie and watch their Tobuscus and watch endless hours of people playing StarCraft and all that wonderful shit that they do and enjoy their Steam and all that and just stay out of the console war because everybody already knows that as a fact. So when they come in and they say, PC Master Race, they're just making themselves look like an idiot jackass because they're more interested in how much more powerful their system is over consoles they don't even give a shit about than actually playing with their own platform. And that's what I think about the PC Master Race. Next. Shit, he had one more question. 3. Is the FPS genre dying? In regards to all the hate Call of Duty is receiving and recent flops of Battlefield and Titanfall. Is it dying? No. Has it become bland as fuck? Yes. Whose fault is that? Partially the developers and partially the audience. As long as you guys keep buying them to get the next FPS experience, which is the same as the last FPS experience, as long as there's guys out there who won't even play the campaign and will only jump right into the multiplayer as soon as they put the disc in the system, as long as there are guys out there, FPS is not going to move forward. You will see occasional games that make progress in FPS insofar as showing you how to really tell a story, like the BioShock series is one example, or even to a lesser extent games like Singularity. And then you'll have games that push online more into a co-op realm and show you what can be done with humor and use of weaponry and everything, like a Borderlands. Those are the type of games that are pushing the FPS genre forward. Games like Call of Duty are not doing shit. Games like Killzone, as pretty as they are not doing shit. Games like Halo are not doing shit. They're just doing the same thing because you folks aren't demanding any more than that. And as long as they log in to their system and they see that people aren't even earning the trophies for playing through the campaign and they're only playing the multiplayer, that's all they're going to focus their attention on. And then you end up with overhyped bullshit like Titanfall. When Titanfall 2 comes for the PS4, unless it's got a real single-player campaign that can be played without having network access turned on, just like with Destiny, that's a game that I will not be purchasing for the PS4. If they don't put forth an effort to build me a compelling story with compelling characters that I can play through that story and feel like I'm a part of that story, then I don't give a flying fuck about it. That's why I didn't give a fuck about MAG, and that's why I got so sick and bored of games like Unreal Tournament 2004, and that's why I don't give a shit about Destiny and I don't give a shit about Titanfall. As long as you people continue to buy the same shit that they're scraping out of your ass and putting back into your mouth every year, they're just going to keep on scraping the shit out of your ass and sticking it right back in your mouth every year. If you want them to bring you something more in FPS genre, speak with your wallet. Next. Question from Duke Nukem 3DO. What do you think about Anita Sarkeesian and feminism in gaming? Already kind of touched on that. Look, I think that there is some validity to the argument that women aren't being represented enough in gaming. But the argument that all female characters in gaming are weak, I think it's bullshit. Of course you have Lara Croft. You've got Elena Fisher from the Uncharted series. Sure, you don't play as her, but she's a character that for the most part takes care of herself and can fire a gun, and she can hold her toe in stay toe to toe intellectually with Nathan Drake. He's never shown to be smarter than her or anything like that. She's his partner in more ways than one, and she is a strong female character. If you play Mass Effect as with a female Shepard, she's certainly a strong character, and there are many strong female characters in the Mass Effect series. So the fact saying that there's no strong female characters and pushing the misogyny of things, I think a lot of, like I said, there's some truth to it, but I think a lot of it is bullshit. Pointing out a female character getting raped in a game that's mostly a crime-driven game, well, there's not that many male rapes that aren't male-on-male rape that get reported all too often. You don't really hear, "Please help me, I'm being raped by my wife." You don't hear that very often. So if you're going to depict a rape as a crime, chances are it's going to be a female that's been raped. So are we just supposed to assume in a mature rated game that is a police procedural like L.A. Noire or something like that rapes don't really exist? Are we really being realistic and true to the motivations of the story if we leave those kind of things out? We don't have to show the rape, but we can show the consequences of it. And by having that woman rise above what happens in the storyline, they can show that she is a strong, independent person that's not going to let bad things that happen to her keep her from moving forward in her life. That can be done in the storyline, but still show the reality of the world that we live in. When we have mature games, that means that these are games that should be closer to how this world really works. And the way this world really works, sadly, is that there's a lot of bad, nasty shit that goes on. And as much as they would like to pretend that it doesn't, a lot of the bad shit that goes on happens to the ladies. So that's what I think about the violence. Now, as far as sex goes, you might as well talk about the movie industry. You might as well talk about any industry. Sex sells. And, sure, women are subjectified all over the fucking place. Men get subjectified too. It's just women don't want to throw that up because it's not as large of a market. Well, like I said, sex sells and video games aren't any different. No different. But if you want to see an example of the reverse of it, why don't you go look at that Japanese game that had all those muscle guys in underwear running through buildings and shit. Y'all remember when those trailers came out? Yeah. And there's been video games that have shown naked guys walking around. I don't see women rushing out to buy those games saying, "Ooh, they have nudity," because these aren't real people. These are video games. I can't think of anyone that I've ever spoken to who got hard or jerked off to the sex scenes in God of War, okay? They're just there for the shock value. And I don't think it's corrupting people's youth because they've been watching the real thing on R-rated movies after their parents go to bed since the last 30, 40 years. Okay? I would think that if watching the real thing on HBO after mom and dad have turned out the lights doesn't pervert them or turn them into a social deviant or make them mistreat women, that watching a vase bounce on the wall while a woman moans and groans and shows some tits and ass in God of War is not going to turn anybody into a wife beater either. So while there is some truth to it, I think it's being completely blown out of proportion to generate controversy and to generate views and ad clicks, and that's pretty much it. Case closed. Next question. From Dominic Aguilon? Dominic Aguilon, maybe? What's your favorite PSN exclusive game on PS4? It'd be a tie between Resogun and Infamous First Light. That's it. Those are the two best exclusive downloadable games as far as I'm concerned, especially if you're talking about first party. There's some other great games on there too that aren't on Xbox One, but as of right now, those are the two that stick out, and especially Resogun, because god damn it, it's addictive as fuck. Next. From Happy Awesome Fun Time. Can you tell us exactly why you hate Xbox in detail and what makes PlayStation so much better in detail? Yes, I can, and I already have. Watch my old videos. Shit. Next. From Cody Carls, the blind RPG gamer. What is your favorite and least favorite console? Well, it's kind of the same as asking me what's my favorite game. I love and hate different consoles for different reasons. But again, if I had to pick one console that was my absolute favorite, I'd probably say it was the Sega Genesis. Very close tie, potential tie, just scraping over the NES. A lot of people are shocked that I don't say Super Nintendo, but honestly, I was so heavily into my Genesis that I enjoyed my Super Nintendo, but by that point, I'd already seen 16-bit, and I was just so in love with my Genesis that it was like my secondary 16-bit console. Least favorite console would probably be, without a doubt, the Atari Jaguar. Oh my god, that system is such a fucking fail. I can't think of a single game on it that's a must-have title that isn't a third-party multiplat that was available on other systems at the time. Because even the games that are considered good on it, they are considered good for Jaguar, which isn't really saying a whole lot. Plus, the controller fucking sucked, and not only is the CD add-on fucking expensive, but only a couple of games were made for it, and chances are you could spend a couple of grand to get one, have it shipped to your house, and it don't even fucking work. So, worst system, Atari Jaguar. Next. Oh God, from the Perverted Beast, aka Pervy Sage. Why does Zaire like to choke on cock? And also, do you like P.F. Chang's? Well, Zaire's had a bad time as of late. I'm not going to talk about the man while he's down. Sorry. I know that you posted this before that happened, so, yeah. And do I like P.F. Chang's? Honestly, I have never ate there. I do like Chinese food, though, but I've never ate at P.F. Chang's. Favorite Chinese food is the Chinese pepper steak combo. Chinese pepper steak with pork fried rice and 2 egg rolls. I get the exact same thing every time I go. I like lo mein too, but that's my dish of choice. Now go piss in your asshole and make mustard. Next! From Keston Maldi, do you like mommy's milk? I was formula fed. Next! From the Asian Phil 88, I think that's how it's pronounced. The Asian Phil 88. When was the last time you spoke to General MLD? I actually spoke to him a couple of months ago. I tracked him down on, I believe it's the VG Charts forums is where he's trolling now. And, I talked to him about the new consoles coming out and what have you. And expressed an interest in him coming back because the choice of decent Xbox players to debate with was so fucking piss poor now. It's a fucking goddamn joke. And, he said that forum trolling was all he had time for anymore, that he was working 2 jobs and going to school, and he literally doesn't have the free time to get in front of a camera anymore and be active in it the way that he once was. And he's not going to do it half-assed, so he's just not going to do it at all. So, I wish the poor Canadian bastard the best of luck in his future endeavors. Next. Mr. James Famous. I already answered earlier in the video what some of my favorite games of 2014 were and what I was looking forward to playing. So, sorry somebody beat you to the punch on that. But at least you got your answer, and I'm acknowledging that you asked it. Next. From Mark Kennedy, do you think Sony should repurchase the rights to Crash Bandicoot? Yes, I do think that. Why? Because the current owners aren't doing jack shit with it. What was the last game that came out for it? Crash of the Titans? It was a multi-plat for PS2, Wii, and 360. Game fucking sucked, didn't sell worth a shit the last time I checked. Yeah, I think it needs to be brought back to Naughty Dog. And rather than make a Last of Us sequel, I think The Last of Us is a game that at least the Ellie and Joel story should be left alone. If they want to tell other stories within that universe, that's fine. But I think the story of Ellie and Joel ended right the way that it needed to end. So I would prefer that they buy Ratchet and Clank back and completely reboot Ratchet and Clank, or Jak and Daxter, since we still own the rights to that. And if they're going to bring old series back, have the original developer who made it so great do it. Don't hand it off to like Sony Bend or somebody like that, and wait a few years before bringing out another Last of Us. Don't turn The Last of Us into an also-ran. It's not really a storyline that I think caters well to sequels like Uncharted. I would just hate to see that game's legacy as the masterpiece that it is be tarnished by endlessly sequelizing it. I think some games are meant to only have one iteration of it, and The Last of Us, at least for Joel and Ellie's story, is one of those games. So yes, Crash Bandicoot definitely needs to be rebought and brought back. Sonic Blast 2404 says, opinion on which of the big three will start with the true digital gen. I think it'll be a tie between Sony and Microsoft. I think that Sony cares more about physical media at the current point, because they've stated in several interviews, and there's been several people within Sony that have tweeted a lot about the fact that they still care about physical media and they don't want to rush into anything like that. And there's been even people within Sony that say that they don't want to see physical media go away in the gen after this one. whereas everything that you hear from Microsoft is digital, 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 digital. But what I feel is that Microsoft will kind of show in their actions that they're heading in that direction, and Sony will have to go into the same direction so that they compete. But that may be a way that Sony competes against Microsoft in that way, by still having a physical media option, but being a system that's built to be an all digital streaming system. I think Nintendo will get left behind because in that regard, because of the repeated comments from both Iwata and Miyamoto that they are still focused on a hardware-based, centralized platform. That they're not interested in porting their software to any other medium. That it's for consoles and handhelds. I think they will continue to stay apart, at which they started with the Wii, and will go their own direction. So I do not believe that the next Nintendo system will be an all-digital system. However, whether you guys appreciate what the next system will be, different story. Because I have a feeling that Nintendo may, I'm not saying they will, but they may be going in a direction where their console market and their handheld market becomes more integrated. And by that I mean there's been some talk about potentially having their next console be a handheld that also functions as a console, because their handheld market doing really good, console market not doing so good, so let's make a handheld that's a console. Am I saying that's going to happen? No. But if it did happen, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Whether everybody embraces it or not is a different question. Next. What is your favorite RPG of all time? Well, again, I can't really categorize, so favorite Western action RPG of all time, probably a tie between currently Diablo 3 or Champions of Norath. Favorite action Japanese RPG would of course be Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Favorite turn-based RPG would be Japanese RPG would be Panzer Dragoon Saga. Favorite Western RPG, it'd probably be a tie between Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, or Skyrim. So there you go. That question, by the way, was from Stink183. Sounds like a 90s punk band. Okay, Marcus Soul Combos. Have I tried Velocity 2? It's pretty damn good. Yes, I've tried it, and yes, it is pretty damn good. Next. From Big J Man 123456. God, what is up with these names, guys? Where did the name The Seventh Level come from? What are your thoughts on the games Rime and No Man's Sky? How do you feel about Rise of the Tomb Raider being a timed exclusive and it going up against Uncharted 4 next year? Thanks for the content. Okay, Seventh Level. This is a story I've told before. Again, back then, there was no World Wide Web. It was all BBSs. I was in high school, and I was working at a pharmacy / grocery store thing called Farmore, which doesn't exist anymore. They had a video department, and I was working in the video department. I was part-time job, still in high school, and we had a really busy day where we almost rented out and got returned back everything that was in our inventory, and I was the only one there. And I worked a full 16-hour shift to get it all done. The manager comes walking out to see that the video department is looking pristine and all the numbers have added up and whatnot, and he says, "Wow, you really dragged this department out of the seventh circle of hell." Well, right when he said that, we had a guy who cleaned the floors and did other janitorial stuff, and he was kind of on the slow side. I'm trying to be nice about it. He was mentally challenged, and he heard him say that. Well, a couple of days later, I'm walking by, and this kid sees me, and he points and says, "The seventh level." And which, of course, it was the seventh circle that the boss said. But other people at the office, at the store, heard him say that, and they thought it was funny, so they started calling me the seventh level. And this repeated until everyone in the store was calling me the seventh level. Well, then one day, some of my friends from school came in because we were going to go do something after I ended my shift, and somebody walked by and said, well, there goes the seventh level, and they heard it. So the next thing I know, I go to school, and the people at school are calling me the seventh level, and then they shorten it to seventh. And eventually, when I got into BBSs, everyone on BBS, and hackers too, but everyone on BBSs had what they called back then their handle. It wasn't called your screen name or any of that shit. It was called a handle. And we had people that were named after Dungeons and Dragons characters and superheroes and all this dumb shit. And I didn't want anything generic like that. I wanted something that really spoke to like who I was and kind of embodied me. And since everybody knew me by that point as seventh, and I've got the most generic first name in real life that there is, I said my screen name, my handle will be the seventh level. And I've been the seventh level ever since. So from like 1991 to now, I've been seventh. So there's that part. What are your thoughts on the games Rime and No Man's Sky? Rime looks really interesting, but I haven't seen enough of it to voice an opinion. No Man's Sky is a first day buy for me. I love space exploration games. I loved them on PC. That's one of the main things that I've missed because space exploration hasn't really been done to my satisfaction on a console, really. Real open galaxy, open universe exploration. That's something I've missed on PC, so No Man's Sky is something I'm very excited for. Rise of the Tomb Raider being a timed exclusive. Don't give a shit. When it's coming out is when Uncharted 4 is coming out, and even if it did launch the same day on PS4, I'd be buying Uncharted 4 and buying Tomb Raider later down the road. So the fact that it's a time exclusive works fine for me because I'd be too busy playing Uncharted anyway. If it comes out 6 months or even a year later, the version that we're going to be getting is going to be a graphically improved version with more content, all the DLC included on the disc. So all I can really say is thank you, Xbox, in advance for beta testing my software for me. Next. From the Llama D, can you tell us what your most valuable money games are that you've collected? If not, can you tell us what video game or game system do you have the most nostalgia or sentimental value for? Well, I've already kind of gone into which systems I have the closest emotional attachments to. As far as most valuable games, honestly, I don't really pay too much attention to how much they're worth except for the fact of how much I'm having to pay to find them. And I've got so much stuff in storage. Honestly, I haven't sat down and tabulated and looked up the prices to everything I own. I've got on my shelf, I've got stuff that's like uncommon stuff like Cannon Spike for Dreamcast, which it's over a $50 game, which for an old Dreamcast game is pretty on up there. And of course I've got Xenoblade Saga, which has been fluctuating depending on how many copies are out there between anywhere from $80 to $180. So I do have some rare titles. But I don't have like a pricing guide where I've sat down and figured out how much they are. It's more just I have a master list of what I do have and what I don't have, and when I go to a store and I buy a retro game, I just go to that list and I highlight that one with a yellow highlighter, marking the fact that I've now purchased that game, and that's what I do. I don't really pay attention too much to how rare the game is. It's just about the love of collecting and completing that set and whatnot. And that's not to say that I don't go looking for rare stuff. I have some rare collector's editions and what have you. And I just ordered, I don't remember the name of it, but there was a notice that came out that said rarest PS3 game available for pre-order. And basically it was this company that had released a bunch of PSP RPGs. And they announced they were going to release a sequel to one of their PSP games as a PS3 game, but that they weren't going to have the money to distribute it to retailers all over the place, so they were just going to do a pre-order for it, and they had a set number that they were going to print, and if the pre-orders didn't match that amount of discs, they're only going to print however many people pre-ordered it. So as soon as I found out about that, I knew it was going to be a rare, and I pre-ordered it and put my money down. So if only 150 people pre-ordered it, then only 150 will ever be printed, and then there will be a game for PS3 that there's only 150 copies that even exist. And that one will end up being worth a lot of money, no matter how good the game is or is not. So that is one instance of where I've bought a game strictly for the collection value of it. For the most part, if I buy a game, it's either because of I just want to complete the set, or because it's a game that I enjoyed playing and have a personal attachment to, or it's a game that I've heard people talk about, but I never got around to playing it at all, and I want to experience that game. So, next. From Guyman Super, will we see a decent amount of AAA titles for the PS4 and Xbox One this generation? If you mean by AAA, you're talking about games that score a 9 or better, yes, we will on both systems. Next. From Alfaco? Have you ever been to a video game music orchestra show? No, I have not. If not, would you ever go? Yes, I would. What songs in particular would you want to hear played? Well, I know this has already been done, but I'd be interested in hearing some Final Fantasy orchestral work. But honestly, if I could pick anything that I would hear an orchestra play live, it would be the Uncharted series. I know that sounds fanboyish as hell, but I honestly believe that the Uncharted music is the best music of the last generation. I mean, that music was written by the same composer that wrote the music for Firefly, the TV show. And that's a weird connection when you consider the fact that Nathan Drake looks an awful lot like Nathan Fillion. And that's the actor that people always bring up when they start talking about an Uncharted movie. But that's the guy that did the music for Uncharted, and it's just amazing. I can sit down, and if someone plays that Uncharted music, I know instantly what it was. It's as recognizable to me as the Indiana Jones music, or the E.T. music, or Star Wars. It feels like music out of an 80s film, where theme and structure and having a theme for each character and that kind of thing still mattered in Hollywood. And that's why I like it. It reminds me of an era where the music itself was a character in the film. And that's what I'd like to hear played live. Next. Insane in the Membrane asks, why do you think Next Gen 720 is so stupid? Well, again, he's going through some hard times. I'm not going to sit and make fun of the man. I don't believe he's stupid. He knows exactly what he's doing in his videos, and he knows exactly how you people will react to it. He's doing exactly what he wants to be doing. It's not that he's stupid, it's that he is intentionally trolling you. He is a troll. And honestly, if you're tired of seeing the kind of things that he does, which is the same kind of things that I do, only I don't twist things around or give half the facts or what have you the way he and guys like Crap Gamer do. If you're tired of seeing those kind of people in the community, there's a really easy way to take care of that, and that's to don't post comments and don't watch the stuff. Just don't watch. If you don't like what they have to say, don't watch it. But if you are going to continue to watch, at least admit the fact that you have fun with the console wars, that or you're too emotionally attached to your plastic. Next. From Dade Shade Nuff 187. My question is, why do you think third-party companies want nothing to do with the Wii U? I know you said sales in this video, but do you really think that's all it is? Look, this has been going on from the N64 on. Third-party platform games has not been a strength of any console for Nintendo, not handheld, but home console, since the Super Nintendo. That was the last time. Third-party support sucked on the N64 because they chose to stay with carts instead of go with CD, and it's been bad ever since. The GameCube had some good third-party support, such as Resident Evil 4 and a handful of other games, but it paled in comparison to the PS2. and that's because the N64 had caused these third-party developers to go to PS1, and Nintendo hasn't had it ever since. And the ones that have occasionally gone in and tried to get back into the third-party game with Nintendo, well, guess what? Nintendo fans have gotten to the point where they've gotten so used to not having third-party games en masse on their system that they don't look for that. They're looking for those first-party exclusives. And yes, there are some hardcore gamers that would buy them if they were there, but they put third-party games out, and the people don't buy them. These companies, the Nintendo fans like Dr. Trey and whatnot are trying to make it seem like this is a phenomenon that's being started because of sales on the Wii U. But this is actually something that started way back farther than that, and even if you wanted to go more recent, on the Wii. There was a whole ton of really good third-party exclusives for the Wii, and the straight bone facts of it is that most of them didn't sell for shit. Most of them sold less than 500,000 copies. And they can try to spin that any way that they want, but it's the facts. They didn't buy their third-party games. I held a whole bunch of them up to fucking Black Baron in a video, and he referred to some of the best games on that system as shovelware. Why? Because he didn't even know what they were. He didn't even know what they were. Now, guys like Dr. Trey, he would probably be able to say, yeah, I know what that game is. Whether he actually owned it or not, though, is a different story. Going by how many total copies of some of the games that I own, because I'm a collector, I would say the chances are he probably doesn't own a lot of the Wii U games, or not Wii U, but a lot of the Wii games that I have that people just didn't give a chance. They were advertised, they had marketing to them, maybe not on TV, but definitely in the print and web media, and people just didn't buy them. Meanwhile, games like Wii Fit and Mario Kart and Wii Sports, 30, 40 million copies. But games such as Mad World didn't sell for shit. It's a combination of a lot of different things. It's bad blood that's gone on for years between third parties and Nintendo. It's long memories of how Nintendo used to treat third parties back in the day, which was like indentured servants. And it's their own install base kind of abandoning third-party sales for the most part. So now it's too much of a risky venture for them to get into that market. And there were some companies that were willing to try again with Wii U based on what Nintendo told them that the Wii was going to be, and they came into it with a bunch of old games that some of these gamers had already played on previous platforms. There was only a handful of exclusive third-party games, a couple here and there, and the sales weren't there. And if the sales aren't there, people aren't going to make more. Why are they going to make you more of what you ain't going to buy? That's just all there is to it. Next. Jesus, you are asking me some in-depth questions. Bilbo T-Baggins. Bilbo T-Baggins, okay. What do you think about the lack of middle-market developers in gaming today? It seems as if there are only big corporations developing big games or indie developers, and when a smaller company achieves minor progress, they're bought out by a behemoth like EA. I don't really necessarily think that that's accurate. There are still a lot of companies that are they're their own separate entities, what you would think of as middle market, that put out maybe not the biggest budget games, but they put out quality stuff. A good example of that would be Insomniac. Another good example of that would be Platinum Games. These are middle market. These are second party developers. Then you've got middle market publishers like Xseed or NIS America. There's still a lot of middle ground, smaller, what you refer to as middle market developers and or publishers that are still putting out good content. Are they AAA multi-million-dollar blockbusters? No, but they're good games. I don't really see the the lack of them the way that you do. And I guess that's because maybe those kind of games just isn't something you pay attention to. Maybe you're not big into the JRPGs that you get from Xseed or NIS America, and maybe you're not a big fan of Insomniac, or you were still under the impression that they were this big, huge, multi-million-dollar game maker. And the truth of the matter is that none of their games have sold fantastically well, and that on the PS3 anyway, they were getting financial help from Sony for pushing the Resistance series up to be a AAA series. So maybe they'll have success with Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox One, and then they will become this big AAA company. Or maybe not. I mean, Sony's had the opportunity to buy them in the past, and they bought Sucker Punch instead. Judging by the quality of the games that Insomniac's released lately, I'd say that wasn't a bad choice. Next. Roller42. Do I remember the first video I ever made on YouTube? Yes, of course I remember it. It was in July of 2009, and it was a video about General MLD. That was the first video I ever made. It's not on my current channel, it's on my old channel, and all you have to do is click on videos and just keep scrolling till you get to the very last one. It's not exactly rocket science. My old channel is THE7THLEVL, because at that time the 7th level was being held by somebody else. So that was my first video. It was about MLD. From ThugNasty97, what do you think Nintendo could do next gen to dominate the competition? Nothing, because they refuse to modernize. Their network infrastructure is behind. Their cloud technology is definitely behind, and definitely even behind what Sony can do. Way behind on Microsoft as far as cloud tech. Although, Microsoft's really blowing a lot of smoke up people's ass as far as cloud compute goes. We just simply don't have the infrastructure for it, folks. I'm sorry. It's PR market speak. It's bullshit. We do not have the high-speed network infrastructure for cloud-based computing to be the norm in gaming, or to even give you a little boost. I work in networking for a living, and let me tell you something. Cloud computing, cloud storage is what cloud is mostly used for in this market these days. There is cloud compute, but if it's not being used for business purpose to make money on a wide scale, it ain't going to be done on a fucking game console. It can handle minor shit like processing drivatars and that kind of crap, but you idiots that are expecting to turn on an Xbox One game in 2 or 3 years and see amazing mind-blowing graphics because the cloud compute is doing all the processing, no. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The only time you're ever going to see that is when we go full streaming, and then all of the processing is being done on the server. And all it's doing is transmitting the data to your screen, and you're transmitting the controller data back. And I've been saying that was coming for years, but guess what? We do not have the network infrastructure for constant high-speed streaming of all processing data. We don't have the power yet for that kind of functionality. It's just not going to happen yet. It's getting there, but our network on the whole is too slow. Super Mag Machine, the original Bayonetta on Xbox 360 and PS3 was a masterpiece, and did anyone buy it? No. Well, that's not true. 2 million people bought it. What's wrong with getting the word out on a good game that people would otherwise overlook? The problem is not getting the word out. The problem is that you people that are on the Nintendo side have so much of a tendency and a willingness to overlook. It's not that there's anything wrong with getting the word out. What's wrong is that you, the consumer, having to get the word out in the first place. If the game is good, you shouldn't have to convince your fellow gamers to go out and spend their money on it. You shouldn't have to convince your fellow Wii U owners that just because it doesn't have Mario, Zelda, or Metroid in it, that means that game is not worth having. You shouldn't have to do that. Dr. Trey shouldn't have to do that. The Black Baron shouldn't have to do that. People should simply recognize those as good games that deserve to be had and go out and buy them. The fact that the install base for the Wii U is the way it is, to the point where they're coming up with campaigns to convince people to buy what's going to be a good game in hopes that it sells well enough that third parties will see it selling well enough and want to put games on their system. That doesn't say anything bad about Nintendo per se outside of their marketing, and it doesn't really say anything bad about third-party developers because they're just protecting their business interests. It says something bad about the Nintendo gaming community. It says something bad about your install base. Get it through your head. If you're having to convince your fellow Wii gamers that, hey, this is a good game, you need to go buy this. There's nothing wrong with word of mouth, but even if you guys are successful with Bayonetta, well, then the next game is going to come out. Are you going to start a whole other campaign for that one too? You see what I'm saying? Anyway, next. Chris Stacy asks, what's my opinion on FPS games for consoles? I kind of already gave that when I was talking about how I feel what they need to do to evolve the genre and keep it moving forward. But that didn't just apply to console, that applied to PC as well. If you're asking how it compares to PC, honestly, first-person shooters on PC is just a better experience. The control is better, the depth of field is better, the refresh rate's better, the frames per second is better, the textures are better, everything about it is better. Does that make those games on console any less fun to play? No. They're just as fun to play. You just get a better experience on PC. So another thing for these PC elitists, you can have better graphics, you can have faster, tighter control and better frame rate or whatnot, but the bottom line is the game is still fun. So just stay out of the fucking argument. Next. Hoarder Rules Forever wants to know, what's my opinion on MOBAs, more specifically League of Legends or Dota, and what are your opinions on the esports scene? I'll answer the second one first. I think esports is an oxymoron. Nothing that you can do sitting down without using anything more than your thumb and eye muscles is a sport. It is a spectator pastime at best. It's something that can be watched as a spectator entertainment, but it is not a sport. If you are not physically exerting yourself, it is not a sport. As for League of Legends, Dota, I don't like MOBAs. I don't like them for the same reason that I don't like deathmatch first-person shooter anymore, because you're doing the same fucking thing over and over, and it's just ad nauseum. Yeah, it's a game that is designed to make you spend more money. You want to. It's all based around earning money off of your competitive nature, and that's all it is. And it does not interest me in the slightest. I do not like that genre. Next. From Mark Orkins, okay, seventh question. Any cartoons you watch nowadays? Hope you're not one of those meatheads who thinks cartoons should only be for people below a certain age line. Yes, I watch cartoons. I watch a lot of anime. I typically watch the new Disney films when they come out because I used to work for Disney, so I kind of have an emotional attachment to the stuff they put out, although it's more towards the Pixar stuff nowadays, and I prefer the older handheld animated movies. Not handheld, hand-drawn animated movie. I'm getting tired. I've been doing this for 2 hours now. Hand-drawn animated movies such as The Lion King and The Hunchback of Notre Dame and things of that nature, you know, and even Treasure Planet. I even like Treasure Planet, and a lot of people think it sucks. For me, Disney hand-drawn all the way over Disney-produced CGI. I mean, I know they own Pixar now, but I still think of Pixar as a separate entity. Did not care for Brave all that much, though. Their last couple of ones have not, Monster University was shit. That wasn't a good one. So I think that John Lasseter needs to rein things in and stop letting the Disney marketing people have so much control over what they put out, because it's starting to affect their product. But as far as like, I watch a lot of adult stuff. Like I've been watching that one. The name of escapes me right now, but it's that new one on Netflix with the talking horse. Uh, I've whatever horse Jackman or whatever. I've been watching that one, and I watch a lot of the more adult-oriented stuff. The Adult Swim and all that kind of thing. As far as watching just regular animated shows, no, not really, because when I was a kid, every Saturday morning was cartoons, and they don't really have that anymore. They don't, the major networks don't do Saturday morning cartoons. Most of the cable networks don't even do Saturday morning cartoons. There's certain places you go to watch cartoons, and the rest of them don't really show the stuff. Hell, a lot of the channels don't even have afternoon cartoons anymore after school, because you've got Cartoon Network and you've got Disney and you've got all these other channels that put this stuff out now. So it kind of makes me sad, because the kids of today don't get to have that experience of waking up on Saturday morning and watching Bugs Bunny and the Real Ghostbusters and all that kind of stuff that I watched when I was a kid. I can remember right around Labor Day, all the major networks would hold a special that would show all the new cartoons that were coming out for the next season. And I remember me and my friends would always watch those specials and get excited about what the new stuff coming out was. And then everyone would wait for that one Saturday coming up when all the new stuff would come on, and we'd have our VCRs ready to record the ones that were coming on at the same time as something else we were interested in, and then we'd swap the tapes out and stuff so that everyone could see all the shows that they didn't watch because they were watching something else. And that's just an experience that kids of today don't get anymore, and so I'm kind of sad about that, because that's something that I would have loved. I had a lot of fun with it as a child, and that's something that I would have liked for Eighth to get to experience, and instead he's experiencing this new digital world, which, sure, having thousands of cartoons available at the touch of a button is cool, but it just doesn't feel the same. Just doesn't feel the fucking same. It's not special anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Next. Top 20 games of all time. Dude, that's not a question, that's a list. Maybe I'll make a video of that one day, but I'm not sitting here and doing that now. Sorry, but I appreciate your support and your participation. That was John Jam Botart, or John Jambotard, or however the fuck that's pronounced. I appreciate you viewing, and I appreciate your comment, but I'm not going to sit and list 20 games. I just wanted questions. I'll think about doing a top 20 game video at a later date. Next. 16-bit Gamester, what do you think of the new 3DS? I think the new 3DS is what they should have released when they released the old 3DS. And what they're doing now is effectively splitting their market base, or their install base. So they're going to have all these 3DS current owners that when the new games start coming out, they're not going to be able to play these new games. So you're going to have one of two things happen. Either it's going to be a big resounding success because all these people are going to be essentially forced to upgrade to this, 0.5 of a console improvement, or it's going to be like and this is, I find, unlikely, but it's going to be a 32X type situation where instead of buying that, they're just going to keep playing their Genesis and wait for the Saturn to come out type of deal. So instead of spending all that money to get an incremental increase in capability and whatnot, they'll wait for the next full redesign handheld, the next big thing. So it could go either way. I think it'll do well, but people aren't going to be happy about it. Next. From Electric Tears, what model guitar do you own in the intro? I don't remember the specific model number, but that's a black Ibanez. It's a model that has a spider's web carved into the wood of the guitar. so it's not painted on its actual notches in the body of the guitar. I don't remember the model number. It wasn't an overly expensive guitar. I spent maybe $500 or $600 on it. I just needed something for practicing at home and for messing around. I don't perform anymore or anything like that, so I didn't need a performance level guitar. I just wanted something that I could play around with and maybe record some music for the channel here and there and whatnot. Of course, right now I don't even have an amp, but anyway, it's an Ibanez. God, you guys are killing me. John Anderson, 7, will you ever do a rant or just your thoughts on how horror games started out and how they lost their way for the past few years? Maybe do a Halloween episode and mention some of your favorite horror games. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Until Dawn. Jesus Christ. I will do a video at some point, since you asked, on my interpretation of the history of horror video games. And I will do that as one of my Halloween episodes. I have some interesting ideas about things I could do for Halloween this year, and I will mention some of my favorite horror games and what have you. I will do a Halloween video or a number of Halloween videos that will address those things and other things. And as for Until Dawn, I haven't seen enough on it to really state an opinion one way or the other. Next, Isaiah Mullins wants to know what my opinion is on the status of the gaming community now. Look, man, I've already done a number of videos about that, and I talk about it on a regular basis. I'm not trying to cut you short, but I've talked about that to a great extent. If you want to know my opinion about the state of the gaming community and whatnot, go through the videos that are on this channel. Go through some of the videos on my 7th Level channel. There's bits and pieces about that scattered through numerous vids. In short, this is the age of the internet. If you have a problem with people being fanboys or people yelling and whatnot, the thing you have to consider is that we do not represent the gaming community at large. We are a niche audience here on YouTube. We are a small vertical slice of the gaming community. We are the YouTube gaming community, okay? And we are on YouTube because we like to argue and debate. That doesn't mean that everyone out there is doing the same thing, okay? So it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. There are people out there, both kids and adults, that don't ever argue about consoles. They just sit and play their games and enjoy life. But we are a different breed. We demand greatness, and we demand dominance. And there's people like that on both sides. If you don't like it, that's your right and your choice, and I respect that. I respect you wanting to keep things pure. But the simple fact of the matter is, if that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong community, son. Next. From Jerry Joe, please comment on people sitting at green lights fucking with their phones. All the cars take off except you because you're behind the dickhead. Stop fucking with your phone when you're driving. I shouldn't even have to explain that to people. My phone, it goes in my pocket when I get in the car. I don't have a little mount where I can sit and play with it, and I wouldn't play with it if I did have one. I'd turn the music on, set it in the mount so I could listen to my music over the speakers, and then I wouldn't touch the thing until the car was in park. And anyone that does otherwise is a fucking dumbass and deserves to get into a wreck. I'm sorry, but that's the plain truth. You see all these commercials of, this is the text they were sending when they were in their crash. Good, they deserved it. Anyone that is willing to take their eyes off the road in a multi-ton moving piece of metal and plastic deserves to be removed from the gene pool. It's as simple as that. If you're that stupid, you never should have been given a license in the first place. Keep your eyes on the goddamn road. Next. Blue Dragon Akira wrote me a novel and then at the very end of it asked me a question. Hey Seventh, there was this PC game released a long time ago called System Shock 2. Did you ever play it, and what are your thoughts about it if you did? The first-person war against Shaitan. Okay, well, Yes, I played System Shock 1 and 2, and for their time, they are fantastic games. And those of you who love the Bioshock games, you can owe a lot of that love and a lot of that appreciation to the System Shock series because it came first. And those people went on to make the Bioshock games. If you haven't experienced them, I'm sure both of them are probably either already on Good Old Games or they've been on it at some point. No, the graphics aren't going to impress, but the story on them is epic. They are both great games that deserve to be tried. If you missed them, go play them. You won't regret it. From Epic Games HD, do you feel that this generation of consoles are weak? On the Wii U side, definitely. Compared to PC, definitely. Compared to the 360 and the PS3, no. They are a generational leap ahead of what we had before. It's just that to stay with PC, they would have had to have leapt probably at least 2 to 3 gens forward to keep up with PC. You got to understand, PC, it's moving faster than consoles could ever possibly hope to keep up with. And this was something that we saw it coming in the last generation, and it's just a fact that you guys are going to have to get used to. The only way consoles could ever keep up with PCs is if they made them modular, where you could replace or swap out the graphics card every couple of years instead of buying an all new console. And if you're going to try to incorporate that into a console, then you might as well just buy a PC. You know, consoles are about price and convenience. That's what they are. That's all that sets them apart. Okay? That and their exclusive content. It's the ease of use, it's the price that you invest in it, it's the lack of having to do any kind of maintenance or upkeep on them aside from clearing the dust out of the exhaust ports, and it's the exclusive content. And if you can't be happy with that, I don't know what to tell you. Or you could be like me and buy everything. Next. GPetty91. If General MLD came over to play video games, why would he do that when we can play online now? But anyway, which system, any system, old or new, would the two of you play on? Do you think you could convince him to play a PS3? It wouldn't be a matter of convincing him. You know, I'm pretty sure that I could make him play whatever I wanted him to play. You know, he's not exactly the most stout of people. And plus, he would be coming over to my house, hence he's on my rules. We play what I fucking want to play. And so if I said, here, have a seat, enjoy that Atari ET, he'd have to do it. Because it's my TV, it's my console. If he doesn't like it, he can get the fuck out and drive home. Next. Isaac West, do you think the PS4 will live up to expectations for games? Jesus Christ, son. The PS1 did, the PS2 did, and even though it took a little bit longer, the PS3 did. What do you fucking think? The only way that that it's not going to live up to expectations is if it ends up that Sony don't make the right decisions in regards to some of their other business aspects and the whole company ends up going under. Then absolutely no, it would not meet expectations. Do I think that's going to happen? No, because they're getting rid of all the dead weight that they need to get rid of. And the PS4 is already turning a profit. If they can start focusing their television brand more on high quality but affordable TVs to keep them in the same price range as the stuff that Vizio and Samsung are putting out, then they're going to be alright. If they can't do that, then, you know, the gaming world is going to be a pretty dismal place. But of course, if we end up moving to 100% streamable, it's going to be pretty fucking dismal anyway. Next. Austin McKnight says, 7th, do you smoke cigars or pipes? If so, which do you prefer and why? I don't smoke cigarettes and I don't smoke pipes. I quit smoking cigarettes 2 years ago. I smoke an e-cig when I still get the urge bad enough. E-cigs do not cause you cancer. They may cause you to have nicotine overdose, but they won't cause you cancer. Now, when I didn't smoke cigars or pipes. I smoked cigarettes. And I smoked Marlboro Lights and Marlboro Ultra Lights. Next, Eddie PSP 7. Do you think a 4K TV is a buy or don't buy this shit? Or do you think both companies will find a way to play 4K TV on their box? 4K TV playback, yes. Game playback, no. If it is, it'd be upscaled and look like absolute garbage. I don't think you're going to see 4K taken advantage of in gaming until the next gen, or of course on PC. As far as it being a buy or no buy, I see no reason to buy a 4K TV at this point, because the Blu-rays that take advantage of it aren't out yet. TV that takes advantage of it still in its infancy. There's no real reason to own one other than to be able to sit and brag about the fact that you have one. And especially at the price that you have to pay to get it, that's an awful lot of money to walk into a store and pay just to be able to point at it and say that you got it. Next, Egghead Cobra wants to know what I think of the new Nintendo 3DS. I just told you that, but thanks for the question. Next, Conrad Fat says, do you have any plans on continuing your reviews on old school games and systems? Well, I goddamn better. I sure spent enough money getting prepared for it. I bought that Retron 5. I bought all sorts of adapters to be able to convert stuff that's on RF or audio video to a signal that I can actually record. And of course, I'm buying new retro games every day. The question or not is that something that you are going to actually want to watch? Because it seems that the only people that want to watch retro gaming videos and reviews are people that are fans of guys like AVGN, or the guys over at RetroWare TV, and guys like Pat the NES Punk and things like that. Most of the retro stuff that I've tried posting didn't really get a whole lot of attention. So it seems that most of the crowd, most of my audience, they either want to see modern reviews, mostly Don't Buy This Shit, because that is a very popular series, or they just want to hear my thoughts about the gaming industry at large, especially if it's negative thoughts about Microsoft. I will make retro reviews. I always will do retro reviews, but the more people watch, the more of them I'll make, because I make this stuff for people that want to watch it. And if not enough people are watching it, I'm just going to assume that people don't want to watch it, and I'll then just make them sporadically for my own enjoyment. So in other words, if you guys want to see retro reviews, watch my retro reviews when I make them. It's not a money thing, because like I've told you guys before, I don't make nothing but pocket money off this channel. I made enough to pay for my Xbox One. Get that back, thank you Xbox. And I took that money and used it towards my vacation to the beach. Actually, that's what I spent it on. But it's just fun money. I use it to buy games, and I use it to buy equipment. That's what and of course my little vacation that I took, which was just a 4-day vacation. I just needed to get away for a few days. So that's the thing. You guys want to see retro reviews? Show me that you want to see retro reviews. If you guys want to see 10-minute taste stuff again, where I was reviewing downloadable games, show me that. Don't tell me that you want to see them and then nobody watches them. If I make the stuff, I expect you to be there. These channels, this is interactive. This is a two-way street. I'll do my part. You do yours. Next. Octuwell Rusland, what do you think about the U.S. droning people and spying on the entire world? I think they're not doing anything that any of the other large countries aren't doing. We just have money, and so we're doing more of it. You think this kind of stuff isn't going on anywhere else? Get real, son. And by the way, this is a gaming channel. I know it's an Ask Me Anything, but I'm not involved in politics. I don't give a shit. This shit they shovel in and out of the White House every 4 years, it doesn't make any fucking difference. Doesn't make any fucking difference. So, yeah, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I appreciate your support, and I thank you for sending me a question, but political stuff, I really couldn't give a rat fucking ass about it. Next. From Mega Gyrus Video Game Lover 58. Who would win in a shootout? Gunstar Red from Gunstar Heroes or Marco from Metal Slug? No one, because they'd never fight each other, because one's on the Genesis console slash DS console and the other one is SNK, although it was ported, so I guess it would be potentially possible. So for the sake of argument, I would say that it would be Gunstar Red, because I like that game better than the Metal Slug series, and what I say goes because it's my channel and you have to deal with it. Also, because, you know, the Gunstar guys can do kung fu moves and all that kind of shit, and all the guy in in Metal Slug can really do is point his weapon and grunt. But anyway, not saying it's a bad system, not saying that it's a bad series. I love the Metal Slug series, but there was just more to the Gunstar games. Next. Double G Games. Hey, Seven, do you think the 2012, did I play Need for Speed Most Wanted? Yes, I did. Is that all you wanted to know about it? Because that's all you asked. If you want my opinion of it, I feel it was a poor man's excuse for a new Burnout Paradise. I didn't like it. I wanted Burnout Paradise 2. They took the systems and the concepts of Burnout Paradise, and then they took all the humor and the fucking fun out of it, and they just made it bland, and it wasn't fun for me. Next. Miroslav, what's your favorite game on each console you've owned? I've already crossed that bridge on this video, son. Thanks for asking, though. I appreciate your support. Next. And D. Coons, here he says, oh, and here's a question. Is there a particular console you absolutely despise? Well, I already answered that question in the video, but thanks for your question anyway. As an optional answer, I would also say that I will hate any console that has anthropomorphic elephant cocks jerking off in it. Next. Hoovy186, what was the most important moment regarding the gaming industry? Jesus Christ. Dude. Oh my God. I got home at 7. It's 11:20 now. I've been recording this for 4 hours. Jesus Christ. What's the most important moment regarding the gaming industry? There's been a lot of important moments, but, you know, of course, you could go all the way back to the 50s and 60s with this if you wanted to, but since we're talking about home console gaming, I would say that the first, and this is as far as I'm going with this, okay, because I'm getting fucking tired, the first most important moment in home console gaming was when they figured out how to make swappable ROM cards so you could have multiple games on your console and weren't limited to 5 or 6 versions of Pong anymore. That would be the first important moment of console gaming, because that moved everything forward since then. You know, we all have swappable games in our systems because somebody sat down and figured out how to do it with the Fairchild Channel F and a couple of other systems. So there's your answer for now. I wish I could go more in depth. Maybe I'll cover that in a series of videos one day, even though that's already been done by half a dozen guys on RetroWare TV at this point. But that's all the energy of an answer that I have for you on that one this time around. I appreciate your question, though. Next. Do I watch anime? From Epic Games HD. That's 2 questions, sir. Not fair. But looks like we've got some others that did the same thing, so Jesus Christ. Alright, do I watch anime? I already answered that question. If I could pick any particular, I would say anything by Studio Ghibli. Anything by Studio Ghibli, instant gold. Unfortunately, they have, I understand it, are not going to be around anymore from what I've read recently, which is fucking sad state for anime and for animation in general. And I was kind of bummed about that. But anyway, there's your answer. Duke Nukem 3DO, what about Fetch from Infamous First Light? What about her? I don't even know what to say to that. She's a character, and she speaks, and the game works. Next. For another one from Asian Phil 88. Did you ever play any of the Suikoden series, especially Suikoden 2? Yes, I've played all the way up through 4. My favorite one was 2. However, the original one had some of the best acoustic guitar work in a video game that I've ever heard. Next. Another one from Epic Games HD. Do you play Kingdom Hearts? I already answered that. Thank you, though. Next. And another one from Duke Nukem 3DO. Which PlayStation console do you like the most? Are you getting Super Smash Bros. Wii U? Favorite PlayStation console so far is obviously the PS2. Are you getting Smash Bros. Wii U? Yes, I'm going to get it. I get all exclusives. Next. Oh God, finally the last one. And it's one I've kind of already answered, wouldn't you know? From T Strangle 513. Seventh, do you think the PlayStation 4 will live up to the glory days of the PS2's quality library of games? I think the PS4 will at least live up to the PS3 as far as exclusive wise. As far as the overall library of games, there ain't no way in fucking hell. The PlayStation 2 had over 3,000 games made for it, both in the US and overseas. It was a gaming juggernaut, and it existed at a time when the Japanese home console market was at its peak, at its prime, at its fullest amount of output. And because of the fact that Nintendo had been the way it was, and because Microsoft was the foreign company that wasn't trusted, almost all of those games were on PlayStation 2, and a lot of them, even quirky stuff, made it overseas. This is why the PlayStation 2 had such a fantastic library. And the simple fact of the matter is that Japan has moved more towards handhelds than consoles. So handheld is getting the brunt of development both from Nintendo and Sony and these third-party companies. And so we are not going to get the amount of games from Japan coming over to the States like we used to, because hell, even Japan is not getting the amount of games from Japan that they used to. Now, things have switched roles somewhat, because now the Western studios are the ones that are putting out the most games, but the simple fact of the matter is that the Western companies are not putting out games at the level that Japan was back in the day. I mean, you had 3,200 or 3,400 something odd PS2 games. The PS3 had something like 790 something. It was like close to 800 games. So you're talking about 1/3 the library. And the Xbox and the Xbox 360, neither of them ever even came close to the amount of games on PS2. So no, I think the days of that pretty much are over. You're never going to see a console that had as many games available for it as the PS2 did, because we simply don't have Japan supplying us with the amount of games that they did back then. It's just not going to happen. The only place that you're going to be able to go to get that amount of games is PC, and that's because PC just evolves. It never comes out with a new gen. So you have all the games that you used to play, and you have all the games that you're ever going to play, all right there. You get what I'm saying? So as far as console goes, PS2 will never be surpassed in total number of games available on a console, because I don't think the Japanese home console market is ever going to get back up to that level. And that's the last question. I appreciate you guys sticking with it. This is the longest video I've ever done, and the only reason that I did do a video this long was to show my appreciation for sticking with me over these past 5 years, and to show my appreciation to my newer subs. I know a lot of you subbed off of wanting to see Xbox hate, and you're going to get Xbox hate. You're going to get your fill of it. I hope you'll stay around for the other stuff that I make too, because I do reviews, and I do skits and comedy bits and things of that nature, and Skype chats and all sorts of shit. You know, I do a lot of different things. I have my hands in a lot of different baskets. But this was just to show my appreciation for all the support and all the well wishes that I've gotten over the years. I haven't forgotten when you guys when my house got broken into and I didn't almost all my stuff was gone, and you guys started up a PayPal campaign and you helped keep some of my bills paid while I was waiting for the insurance money to come in and take care of some of the stuff, and I haven't forgotten that, and I haven't forgotten you guys, and nothing but hetero love for all of you, and that's about as saccharine and sweet as you're ever going to hear me get. So until next time, this is Seventh.